Hey everybody, it's your old buddy Uncle Rich for Who's Telling the Truth. Guys, today's show is, this is show number 265. Kirk, can you put up our bottom third, please? And guys, last week I was invited into the Lion's Den. And you're going to say, Rich, what do you mean? You think you're some Christian? You were invited into the Lion's Den? Guys, Marty Heiser invited me to come on his show, which I gladly did. And I was accompanied by Dave Strait. And guys, what happened was I set these guys straight on a couple of things. But, you know, one of the most important things that we talk about on this show is your source. Be specific and cite your source. And the first clip we're going to play is we're going to show you, we're going to question the source. So, Kurt, clip number 00, please.
Why do facts make you so angry? Why do facts just get under your skin?
Getting your fact from an asshole is what bothers me.
There you go.
All right, guys, now everybody said to me, Rich, you can't use that kind of language. And guys, I'll apologize for calling him an asshole, but he's a jerk. And maybe I should call him a fraud or, a foxtitude, but we're going to expose him tonight. And we're going to expose Patrick Moore, because sometimes more is less. But anyway, guys, with the next clip, we're going to take it. You know, when Dave made his statement, you know, I really should have asked him what his source was. But now we're going to take it one step further. So, Kurt, clip number 01, please.
We've consistently brought up on the show that the co-founder of Greenpeace, recall what he said? He came out and said, burning fossil fuels saved planet Earth because CO2 levels were so low, we were on the verge of extinction.
The co-founder of Greenpeace lasted about 6 months and they kicked his ass out. Why? Because the guy's a schmuck who doesn't know what he's talking about.
Why do facts
But he's the guy that you get your information from. So guys, this is what blows me away. So they're getting their information from somebody who's as good a con man as our con man in chief. And we'll take it one step further because we're going to let you watch how Marty is going to reinforce the bullshit that Dave Strait just threw. And guys, after we expose this, my whole idea about doing this is when you talk to Marty and Dave, or you talk to anybody that mentions Patrick Moore when it comes to climate denial, pull your ear and spit on the ground. Because I tell you, that's the opinion I want you to walk away with on this guy. This guy sold more than his soul. And we're going to prove it on tonight's show. And the last clip we're going to play is Marty reinforcing Dave Strait's bullshit. So, Kurt, clip number 2, please.
Patrick Moore, the co-founder of Greenpeace, the whole climate crisis is not only fake news, it's fake science. There is no climate crisis.
Fake news,
There's
fake
weather
science.
and climate all around the world. And in fact, carbon dioxide is the main building block of life. That was Patrick Moore, the co-founder of Greenpeace, not some guy
The co-founder.
that they threw him out.
Marty, sweetheart, I got a news flash for you. He's not the co-founder of Greenpeace. He lied to you. But I'm sure you're used to being lied to because Trump's done it over 10,000 times. But what do we call the show? Who's telling the truth, and how do we find out who's telling the truth? We go to the source. And who's the source? Kurt, can we have still number 03, please? Guys, the source is Greenpeace, and this is their blog. And we're going to take it one step further. Kurt, can you go to the next one? You see, this is Greenpeace statement on Patrick Moore. All right, now, Guys, this is Greenpeace statement on Patrick Moore. Patrick Moore often misrepresents himself in the media as an environmental expert or even an environmentalist, while offering anti-environmental opinions on a wide range of issues and taking a distinctly anti-environmental stance. He also exploits long gone ties with Greenpeace to sell himself as a speaker and pro-corporate spokesperson, usually taking positions that Greenpeace opposes. So Kurt, so guys, you see what's happening, right? I mean, the guy is a fraud. He's a salesman. Kurt, you can go back and forth, you know? So anyway, but I'm going to read on further now. And Patrick Moore, now remember guys, this is on Greenpeace's website. Patrick Moore does not represent Greenpeace. Patrick Moore has been a paid spokesman for a variety of polluting industries for more than 30 years, including the timber, mining, chemical, and the aquacultural industries. And Kurt, we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to go to the next one, because Patrick Moore did not found Greenpeace. And guys, I'm going to read this slowly so that people like Kurt, you can come back and forth to me. So people, there you go. Kurt's new on this, so he's, you know, he's starting to feel the flow and learn the switchers and everything, but he's here on time and he's a good man. But anyway, so let's go back to the part I'm going to read. So Patrick Moore frequently portrays himself as a founder or co-founder of Greenpeace, and many news outlets have repeated this characterization. Many news outlets have repeated this. Geez, I wonder who could have done that. But guys, we'll show you. So anyway, although Mr. Moore played a significant role in Greenpeace Canada for several years, he did not found Greenpeace. Phil Coate, Irving Stowe, and Jim Bolin founded Greenpeace in 1970. Patrick Moore applied for a berth on the Phyllis Cormac, which is the boat that was later turned to the name Greenpeace, in March 1971, after the organization had already been in existence for a year. Guys, if you want to look it up, they show you where you can get the site. So anyway, to make a long story short, Patrick Moore is an evil individual who sold his soul. And why would anybody sell their soul? For one reason, to make money. And guys, you know, when you see what this guy will do to make a buck and to try to trick the simple folk, I'm telling you, I'm surprised people don't go after him. But the next clip, we're going to prove to you how evil Patrick Moore can be and why anybody in their right mind would try to defend him after they watch this clip. So Kurt, number 7, please. Nope, clip 7. Clip 7. One more. There you go. Whoop, go back. There you go. Hit it.
But sometimes Moore's enthusiasm for promoting junk science gets the better of him, like when he claimed that a weed killer called glyphosate is so safe that you can drink it.
I do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually.
Oh, I'd love to
really,
watch it.
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
You're not stupid, but what you want to do is you want to tell the stupid people, people like Kenny Johnson, people who don't know if they're coming or going, you want to tell them that this stuff is safe? And guys, we know it a little bit better by a different name in this country. And that different name is called Roundup. And guess who's being sued? They just got sued. I don't know how the company's going to stay in business with the amount of lawsuits they have. But guys, you could see, this guy is a huckster. He's a fraud. He's a hired whore to say stuff like that. And where does his stuff end up? It ends up on Fox News. And listen how this is sold. Listen to how Patrick Moore's affiliation with Greenpeace kind of puts him on Fox's top shelf. So, Kurt, clip number 8, please.
Patrick Moore helped found Greenpeace. He has been aggressively critical of the Green New Deal, though, and we thought we'd find out why. Mr. Moore, thanks very much for coming on. So you're one of the founders of the most famous environmental organization in the world, and you think the Green New Deal sounds terrifying. Tell us why.
You know what I want to know? I want to know why you're not telling us why you weren't the co-founder. On national TV, he said you were the co-founder. Why couldn't you be a man and stand up and say, no, Tucker, no. I'm not the co-founder. And please stop saying that. I have some ideas that I'd like to give to the people that watch Fox News because I want to trick them. But I'm not going to try to trick them into finding out, if I'm a co-founder of Greenpeace, because people can look that up. People like Dave Strait can actually look it up, and he could say, wow, boy, am I glad I didn't say anything about this guy, because I'll tell you, Uncle Rich would have ripped me a new one. But guys, who else propagates the bullshit that Patrick Moore tries to propagate? The most watched morning cable TV show. So, Kurt, let's have number 9, please.
Patrick Moore is also the author of Confessions of a Greenpeace Dropout, the making of a sensible environmentalist, and he joins us right now live from our nation's capital.
Look at
Patrick,
that,
good morning
guys.
to you.
Morning.
Now, drop the hired whore, and look at that. Fox News, Greenpeace co-founder speaks out against the Green New Deal. And do you think he would have the Giulianis to say, no, I'm not the co-founder. But you know what? All right, Kurt. But you know what, guys? This is what sells on Fox News. This is how they take advantage of the simple folk. And a lot of people that watch Fox News, you talk about an alternate universe. Wait, we haven't even got there yet. But John Heilman is going to take us there. So guys, pay close attention. Sweet and short. Clip number 10, Kurt.
The business model of Fox News is to create an alternative reality that is destroying the country.
Kurt, can you play that again? That is so cute. One more time, please.
The business model of Fox News is to create an alternative reality that is destroying the country.
The business model of Fox News is to create an alternative universe. And how do they do it? By putting logos down underneath people's names that don't justify the position that they actually held or what they did. Why? They don't care. Doesn't matter. These poor bastards that watch Fox will believe anything. You could tell them 2 and 2 is 5, and you know what? They'll fight to defend it rather than go against their dear leader and the people that think like they do. But John Heilman took no prisoners, and we're going to take it one step further. So, Kurt, number 11, please.
What it mostly is the relentless, disciplined, aggressive pursuit of a business model. The business model of Fox News is to create an alternative reality that is destroying the country. And in that alternative reality, Hillary Clinton's a criminal. She was a criminal from the day that Donald Trump said that thing on stage at the first debate, the second debate in 2016, and then on the convention, Republican convention. She's been a criminal then, she's a criminal now. They've created a world where there are tens of millions of people who think Hillary Clinton's a criminal.
Tens of millions of people who think that Hillary is a criminal. And why? Why? You know, on Chris Ponte's show, and Chris is getting a pass tonight, but on Chris Ponte's show, one day I'm listening to him, and I guess he has a former teacher from Danbury High School that calls in. And Chris asked him, he said, where are you getting your news from now? What sources are you using? He goes, Chris, I go right to the horse's mouth. The first thing I do in the morning, I go to my Twitter feed and I see what our president has to say. And this way, I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. No wonder these people live in an alternate universe. They don't bother to, they don't care. And this is what, but you know what? I think Dave Strait is gonna care. And after this next, and I tell you guys, I talked to Dave's wife after the show. And, you know, the story she was telling me about Dave's a sweetheart. She told me he's a compassionate guy, and Marty is too. So I don't know what flipped. I don't know what went off in their brain. I don't understand it. But you know what? By pointing out the fact that they're getting steered the wrong way, maybe they'll just say, you know what, from now on, before I repeat anything I'm going to hear, I'm going to cite my source and check where they're getting their facts from. And the next clip is going back to me in the Lion's Den. So Kurt, number 12, please.
But mostly is just the relentless,
number 12.
Disciplined, aggressive pursuit of a business model. The business model of Fox News is to create an alternative reality
12, Kurt.
that is destroying the country. And in that alternative...
12. There we go.
Ask you a question, Richard. What is the right level of CO2 for the atmosphere?
Aye.
What's the right level?
The right level.
Okay, start it again.
Ask you a question, Richard. What is the right level of CO2 for the atmosphere? What's the right level?
The right level.
What is the right level of CO2 in the atmosphere? Guys, there is no right level. There's no right level. The amount of carbon in the air has fluctuated vastly over the billions of years that the Earth has been around. But for the last 800,000 years, you know, you'll see a definite, we've crossed a line, and we're going to show you that in a minute. But we're going to go back again and take it one step further with clip number 13 with Dave. So Kurt, hit it.
Okay, so I'll ask you a question, Richard. What is the right level of CO2 for the atmosphere? What's the right level?
The right level is under 350 parts per million.
Congratulations, you go extinct at that level. Here's the fact of the matter is, planet Earth needs all of the CO2 it can possibly get. If we quadruple the amount of CO2,
Rich, let him finish.
That says you, but you're wrong too.
You're wrong.
So
Dave, and guys, I'm sorry. If that's too rude, I'm sorry. But when you're wrong, you're wrong. And I'm not going to let you get away with it. And I'm not going to be passive. And I'm not going to be nice. I'm going to tell you you're wrong. I'm going to look you right in the eye, tell you you're wrong, and then I'm going to tell you why you're wrong with facts and data from confirmed sources. And we're going to go back. The next confirmed source, and you heard me say that the idea was 350 parts per million. And when you think about that, that's a virtual insignificant amount. But the NASA scientists have concluded that that's the point we really don't want to exceed. So anyway, let's listen to Bill McKibben, who founded 350.org, with clip number 14. Kurt?
Yes. 350 parts per million CO2. Any number greater than that, they said, in the abstract of a peer-reviewed scientific paper.
Guys, do you notice what he just said? in a peer-reviewed scientific paper that's been published. So you want something from climate scientists who are publishing peer-reviewed studies. And what happens when they do that? They form a consensus. And what does the consensus conclude? We're in trouble. But we'll show you how they come up with that. So, Kurt, number 15, please.
An American team led by James Hansen at NASA and his colleagues, really our foremost climatologists, published a paper in January of 2008 that gave us a number. And that number, and it's the most important number on the planet, though we never knew it till 18 months ago, was 350 parts per million CO2. Any number greater than that, they said in the abstract of a peer-reviewed scientific paper, was not compatible with the planet upon which civilization developed or to which life on Earth is adapted. Strong language and a very strong number, especially strong when you consider that we're already past it. We're at 387 parts per million and we are rising.
So guys, we got strong language and a strong number. And Kurt, we're going to prove our point with the next two stills. Now you heard Bill McKibben say, now this was done I think in 2008, and he said the parts per million of carbon was 387. Well, that's too big for the screen. Guys, I'm sorry. I'll have to try, when I put these up, I'll try to make sure that I get them down to size. The parts per million we're at right now is 411. And Kurt, go to the next still, number 17. And guys, just take a look at this chart. Look at that. Now, we've never had carbon dioxide hit higher than that dotted line in over 800,000 years. The last 800,000 years has never gotten above 300. Where are we now? 411. So guys, charts don't lie, Republicans do, and they try to trick people like Uncle Joey and Kenny Johnson, but that, you know, and that's from NASA, guys, so you know, you get a source like NASA, and what else can some of the simple folk say? But speaking of simple folk, we're going to have some next fun with our next clip, because our president doesn't understand that the globe is warming, the climate is changing, and it causes extreme weather. So we'll let him stick his own foot in his own mouth. So Kurt, number 18, please.
And now British TV host Piers Morgan. And they talked about a wide range of subjects, including climate change, which the president would not admit is real.
Do you personally believe in climate change?
I believe that there's a change in weather, and I think it changes both ways. Don't forget, it used to be called global warming. That wasn't working. Then it was called climate change. Now it's actually called extreme weather.
Yeah, we're confused too. Weather changes both ways.
Guys, keep it simple. When the globe warms, the climate changes. When the climate changes, it causes extreme weather. Simple. Even guys like Uncle Joey and people that live in the Midwest can understand it. And my computer just shut off. So Kurt, let's just go to the next clip, and I'll just have to trust you on the number. So go ahead and hit it.
The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency expects flooding to continue through May. NOAA's Spring 2019 Outlook identified the major reasons for this year's historic flooding. So let's run through 4 of the big ones. Okay, breaking news, more rain means more flooding. As the weather warms up heading into April, the atmosphere retains more moisture, which leads to more rain.
We've had an abnormal year when it comes to precipitation through the winter months.
Guys, once again, to keep it simple, when the globe warms, warmer air holds more moisture. It's simple. Warmer. What happens when you heat up water? It expands, right? Okay. Well, in its expansion, when things are warm, the molecules are further apart. They hold the temperature. So anyway, it's really simple. It's physics. And when we start to accept it, that's when we'll be better off. And let's see, I think now we're going to go back to the big clips. And I believe that the first big clip we're going to show you is from one of my favorite guys on YouTube. This is from Potholder 54. And guys, I know you might think he's a Fruit Loop, but he's the one that taught me to be specific. And he starts off by giving PragerU the business. So if you ever see PragerU on Facebook, you'll know that they're not a university. But Kurt, so let's have clip number 27, please.
Totally constant is change. That's true about life, and it's true about the climate.
This is Patrick Moore giving a presentation for something called Prager University about climate change. I don't know much about Prager University, but judging from its promo, I'm sure it's a respectable academic institute.
It's called PragerU, a totally new concept in education. It's simple, and it works.
It has dignified professors who look as though they're speaking quite knowledgeably about weighty subjects. So I won't bother looking at it in any detail. I'll move straight on to Patrick Moore's talk on climate change. Sorry, what? Run that by me again?
Or you have an obligation to me, God. And what is that obligation? That you live by the following 9 commandments.
No, wait. I've changed my mind. I do so want to take a quick look at Prager University. Oh, please continue, Professor.
The one thing God declares is that he took the children of Israel out of slavery and into freedom. That's how much God hates slavery and how important God considers freedom. The founders of America based their entire view of America on this belief.
They did? Now, there are some moments in time where I'm so sure that everyone's thinking exactly the same thing that I'm thinking that to spell it out would be pointless. There must be only 6 people watching this video who don't know what we're all thinking, and they're all graduates of Prager University. So if you haven't already guessed, there's something you need to know about Prager University. It's not a university.
It's not.
PragerU is a political organization founded by Dennis Prager, a conservative talk radio host. It makes 5-minute videos on everything from economics to science, sort of, to religion, including old favorites like I am the Lord your God, and if there's no God, murder isn't wrong. Patrick Moore, who you may remember from the weed killer incident... Wait, no, we don't talk about the weed killer incident.
Guys, that's all we're going to do is talk about the weed killer incident. But I tell you, whenever you see anything on YouTube from Potholder 54, I'm telling you, the guy, anyway, a lot of the stuff that I do on the show, I get from him. And I want to tell you, the guy is dynamite. And like he always says, be specific and cite your source, because you'll see how the simple folk get tricked. So anyway, Kurt, let's go to number 28, which is part 2. And don't forget, guys, glyphosate is really Roundup. And it's being sold at Home Depot, and people are using it. And there's some big cancer lawsuits that have been filed. But let's watch Patrick Moore try to insult the intelligence of the simple folk. All right, so Kurt, 28, please.
So Moore can give as many examples as he likes of changing climate, but none of that is incompatible with the conclusion of researchers that these changes were caused by carbon dioxide. Interestingly, Moore doesn't even try to rebut the mountain of research that shows CO2 is the cause of these changes in climate. He doesn't even refer to it. So we can cross that argument off the list. Next, we come to the weed killer incident. Oh no, sorry, I forgot. We must never mention the weed killer incident. So next we come to Moore's claim that there are other reasons why the Earth might be warming.
There are many more factors in play than simply the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere. Factors such as the shape and size of the Earth's elliptical orbit around the Sun.
Because, as I always say, you don't need to be a genius to check facts. Just have a bit of skepticism and the ability to look things up. In Moore's case, it's even easier because since nearly all his claims are copied off the internet, I've already debunked them in previous videos. Moore is never exposed to criticism like this because he always plays to a friendly crowd.
It's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Patrick Moore.
He's learned from one bad experience that it's not a good idea to be interviewed by people who might challenge his claims. It was, I know I shouldn't mention it, but okay, it was the weed killer incident. Maybe no, I can't. Oh right, you win. I'll tell you about the weed killer incident. First you have to understand the background. Patrick Moore doesn't actually do any scientific research or publish any scientific papers. He makes a living as a PR consultant. He founded a PR company 26 years ago called Green Spirit Enterprises, now called Green Spirit Strategies Limited. And he's made a very good living over the last 3 decades lobbying on behalf of clients who get a bad rap from environmentalists, like fossil fuel companies.
And, you know, for me, the bottom line is the fact that every square inch of the oil sands development will eventually be reclaimed. I'm going to talk about energy in general for a bit here because the oil sands and oil has to be contexted in the larger energy picture.
Pulp and paper companies.
We can make sure that the clearing of land is done legally and the cutting of trees is done legally. The giant paper company Boise Cascade is just as much in the business of planting trees as it is in harvesting them.
He's a hired whore, isn't he?
They need to be put in a safe place, and that's what Energy Solutions is doing. They're doing a good job for all of us.
And of course he gets hired by political organizations to give speeches on climate change.
He'll sell
But
anything.
sometimes Moore's enthusiasm for promoting junk science gets the better of him. Like when he claims that a weed killer called glyphosate is so safe that you can drink it.
I do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually. Not really,
Go
but
get it.
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt
And
me.
if you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
Ah, okay, so you
No, but I know
so it's dangerous,
I
right?
know people try to commit suicide with
No,
it
no,
and
but
fail
let's-
fairly
let's
regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's not.
So you're
Not
ready
dangerous
to
to
drink one glass
humans.
of
No,
glyphosate?
I'm not an idiot.
Moore walked out of that interview, and as far as I know, he's never been questioned by a skeptical
He
interviewer
walked out
since
of the
then.
interview.
The fact that Moore gets paid to make a lot of these claims doesn't matter.
Guys, it doesn't matter to the Republicans that don't support the environment. You know, how could you be a political party and not care about your country? And you know, you helped get Trump elected. He doesn't understand the first thing about science. And he watches Fox News, which just confirms he doesn't know anything. And the next clip, we're going to show you how Tucker sits there like a little lamb on Fox News and how he doesn't challenge anything, and he lets Patrick Moore perpetuate the fraud that he wants to give to the people that watch Fox News so that they could say, well, you know, you get people like Marty and Dave, well, you know, Patrick Moore, you know, he's a big Greenpeace guy, and this, Marty, you got taken, kid. You got hosed. Best thing to do is on your next show, just say, hey, we made a mistake. We made a mistake. We put our trust in the conservative media, and now we found out we got taken. And what? Just imagine the people that are sitting home watching Fox And listen to the bullshit this guy comes up with to try to defend fossil fuels. So Kurt, 29, please.
Ocasio-Cortez doesn't seem very worried about jobs that will be lost due to automation, because
A
far more
green
jobs
new
will be
mess.
lost implementing the Green New Deal. Patrick Moore helped found
See
Greenpeace.
what they've done already,
He's been aggressively
guys?
critical of the Green New Deal, though, and we thought we'd find out why. Mr. Moore, thanks very much for coming on. So you're one of the founders of the most famous environmental organization in the world, and you think the Green New Deal sounds terrifying. Tell us why.
Well, because it would be basically the end of civilization if 85% of the world's and also 85% of the U.S.'s energy in the form of coal, oil, and natural gas were phased out over the next few years, like 10 years. We do not have anything to replace them with. Yes, if we went into a crash course of building nuclear reactors, we could replace them for producing electricity, but that isn't going to happen because the Greens are against nuclear, and they're even against hydroelectric dams, which at least is renewable, but they don't support that either. So basically they are opposed to approximately 98.5% of all the electricity that we are using, and nearly 100% of all the vehicle and transportation and ships and planes energy that we are using. When I tweeted the other day and had a huge response, over 3 million impressions on Twitter, when I said you don't have a plan to feed 8 billion people without fossil fuels or get the food into the cities where it's needed. That requires large trucks. And there's not going to be any electric trucks anytime soon hauling 40 tons of food into the supermarkets, where the people in the cities probably think it originates in the supermarket. But it does not. It's coming from farms out in the country where a few million people are growing the food for all the rest of the population. And if we ban fossil fuels, first, agricultural production would collapse in a very short period of time. There's these things called tractors. And they use fuel. And all the other implements on the farm. And then there's the transportation. So when you have no fuel, how do you get the food to the center of New York, to Manhattan, where AOC is from? You don't. Then the people there will begin to starve. And that will spread out as a rot from the center of the metropolises all across the country. And half the population will die in a very short period of time. And as I also pointed out, there wouldn't be a tree left on this planet. Say this was a worldwide thing, because the United States isn't going to ban fossil fuels if no one else does. But say the Paris Agreement came into effect fully all around the world and everybody banned fossil fuels, there wouldn't be a tree left on this planet, because that would be all there was for fuel for heating and cooking, as they did in the old days when there was hardly anybody on the planet compared to what there is today. So just that one point, never mind the insanity of banning aircraft and fossil fuel using vehicles.
Well, you just completely blown my mind. And I knew some of that, but the way you put it was really stirring. Patrick Moore, I hope you will come back on the show anytime that you would.
Anytime, Tucker.
Guys, Tucker has 4 kids. What is he going to tell his kids in the future? What is he going to tell his grandkids? When his grandkids come up to him and say, Grandpa, what did you do about global warming? What's he going to say? I denied it. I wanted to make a good living and lie to people. So in order to make a good living, I had to lie. But you guys got everything you need, right? We're being taken care of. So we moved to the higher ground. And, you know, it's a shame. It's a shame that these guys have no soul. It's just a shame. But you know what? You got people like John Heilman, and I want to tell you guys, he takes no prisoners. And this is the way you deal with facts. This is, and guys, I tell you, the one thing I would love to see, I would love to see somebody like John Heilman sit down across the table from Tucker Carlson. Face to face, man to man, eye to eye, just like I did with Marty and Dave. Go into the lion's den. Take no prisoners. And guys, I want to tell you, when you see this clip, you're going to go, okay, I'm getting the idea, Rich. I'm starting to get it. So Kurt, number 30, please.
Open question, John Heilman, is whether Nancy Pelosi has struck the right balance. But clearly, by putting herself at a fork in the road and presenting one path as impeachment and the other as prison, she got under Donald Trump's skin again.
She did. I want to go back to my friend Sean. Is that
Please,
okay?
yeah.
So I haven't been on the show.
Go wherever you want to go.
I've been on the show a little while, so I want to warn everyone in the booth I'm about to use some language that might need to be bleeped out. I think it's legal to say this.
Okay.
I yield to no one in my tendency to call bullshit on people at Fox News when they lie. And so, bullshit. Obviously, Sean's full of it, right? And we talk about the hypocrisy of what was on display with this thing last night. It's hypocritical. We talk about lunacy, I think was your phrase. It's lunatic. But it's not those things mostly. What it mostly is the relentless, disciplined, aggressive pursuit of a business model. The business model of Fox News is to create an alternative reality that is destroying the country. And in that alternative reality, Hillary Clinton's a criminal. She was a criminal from the day that Donald Trump said that thing on stage at the first debate, the second debate in 2016, and then on the convention, Republican convention. She's been a criminal then, she's a criminal now. They've created a world where there are tens of millions of people who think Hillary Clinton's a criminal. So Sean's not crazy. He gets what he's doing. That's his business model. And I think to be clear-eyed about it is to understand what they are doing. And it's part of why Nancy Pelosi faces the decisions that she has. I've been critical of her for how she's framed this impeachment debate, and I think she's not speaking clearly about it. I think she's undermining the House's institutional responsibilities to pursue an impeachment inquiry. But the political reality she's confronting is the political reality created by Sean Hannity and his business model built on lies, and fantasy, and hypocrisy, and bullshit. And that is what she's dealing with every day, is that there are tens of millions of people who not only haven't read the Mueller report, but don't think there's anything bad in the Mueller report about Donald Trump, and think Hillary Clinton to this day should be in jail. And until we get past that somehow, and I have no idea how to get past it, but until we get past it, it's going to be the political challenge that someone like Nancy Pelosi has to navigate on this question.
Well, you just turned this in a different direction and put away what I was going to talk about, and let's have this conversation, because part of the reason
I hope that's okay.
No, it's fine with me. You can talk to my producers later. But.
So guys, that's what you call flipping the script. Taking it from where they were going and saying, hey, listen, let's call a spade a spade. And I tell you, this is how you got to do it. You know, and if you watched our last show, you know, where we used, what was the word? The branding. You know, we branded words, you know. And I tell you guys, everything's up on YouTube. And Curdy, I couldn't find us on Facebook. Are we on or? But anyway, we're gonna have more fun now with part 2 of John Heilman. And I tell you, you know, just look me in the eyes and tell me the truth. So anyway, Kurt, 31, please.
Well, you just turned this in a different direction and put away what I was going to talk about, and let's have this conversation, because part of the reason
I hope that's okay.
No, it's fine with me. You can talk to my producers later. Part of the reason Donald Trump won was because no one ever had a symmetrical debate with him. There is an asymmetry in this country, because the alternate reality is the reality in which Donald Trump thrives. It's where hand size matters. It's where not only do people think that Hillary Clinton committed crimes, which Jim Comey came out and said the opposite was true at the
helping Donald Trump to win the election.
Investigation. But it's a reality where spying occurred, and we now have. So I guess the bottom line is, if this is a play and it's all bullshit, as you said, the play's in its second season, and they've actually recast the Attorney General. Sessions is out and Barr is in. I mean, it's getting more dire. And do you?
We have an Attorney General who has embraced the Fox News world of bullshit, is what's happened, and that's a hugely scary thing for the country.
Well, not only that, but I also think if we go back to where all of this sort of anger comes from, there's this difference in what Trump has done and how he's presented this, and also what Nancy Pelosi did. Bear in mind, what Nancy Pelosi said was behind closed doors. Yeah. It was a closed-door conversation that she was having with staff that happened to link out. It's not something that she has run on. Look, I've been, I was just at the conference with the Rev in Atlanta yesterday. Maxine Waters comes out and says, impeach 45, right? But she doesn't say throw him in jail. She says, impeach 45, and I think he's a criminal. There's a big difference in sort of the tone and tenor and behavior of public officials who say, I think this person has committed an act and I think they should be held responsible, and this president who basically says, if I don't like you, I will call you names, I will threaten you with prison, I will threaten everybody in your family with prison, and I don't care if there's any justification for it.
But I think the other point that you're making is that you're making a point about the reality.
Well, yes,
and you're making a point about a distinction. And I actually disagree with you. I think Nancy Pelosi is fine to have things leak out about wanting to, because she's trying to appease a caucus that would like to see her proceed with impeachment a lot more aggressively than she is. But no one has an answer to the problem John Island's identified, which is that an alternate reality has been created. It's now in its second season, heading into another presidential campaign, and there are no, we're going to spend the rest of the day figuring out what to do with your bad word. I mean, there is no parallel to what the president says and does and what Fox News, how they cover it.
I think that's exactly right. Look, Fox News, not only are they divorced from reality, and Donald Trump is divorced from reality, Fox News is just a dangerous political force. And let's be clear, they've been doing this for a very long time. They did it during Obama, while Republicans on the Hill were obstructing him. The way that they went after him constantly, it was personal. It was really personal, not really about the policy, but it was a personal attack. And so what Donald Trump is doing
is very simple. He's insulting your intelligence. Simple. When the president tells you that something is a hoax, and you look at a chart like the charts we showed you today from NASA, and then you say to yourself, wait a minute. And guys, hopefully, even people like Uncle Joey are going to come around. Why? Because science doesn't lie. And we're going to show you with Bill McKibben why they named the organization 350.org, and how going over that line, I'm telling you, for our kids and our grandkids, hey, you see what's been happening you see what's been going on in the Midwest, right? Well, we got a clip to show you that. But anyway, all right, so now we're going to show you Bill McKibben, 350.org, and some science facts from climate scientists who publish peer-reviewed studies. So, Kurt, number 35, please.
Fora TV, the world is thinking.
We finally have a number to crisply express
2009.
Before the Industrial Revolution, the atmospheric concentration of carbon in the atmosphere was 275 parts per million, plus or minus 10 parts per million for all the 10,000 years of the Holocene. So depending on your predilection, that's the Genesis number, the Buddha number, the Shakespeare number, that's the world from which we came. Okay? On comes the Industrial Revolution. We begin to burn coal and gas and oil. That number begins to mount, but we never know just where the red line is, and given human nature, we always hope that it's a little further out in the distance so we can get to this problem and deal with it, or really rather so that our children can get to this problem and deal with it, and we won't have to. But when the Arctic melts, that tells you that you may have crossed this line already. And in fact, after that sequence of events, many of our best scientists went back to work. An American team led by James Hansen at NASA and his colleagues, really our foremost climatologists, published a paper in January of 2008 that gave us a number. And that number, and it's the most important number on the planet, though we never knew it till 18 months ago, was 350 parts per million CO2. Any number greater than that, they said in the abstract of a peer-reviewed scientific paper, was not compatible with the planet upon which civilization developed or to which life on Earth is adapted. Strong language and a very strong number, especially strong when you consider that we're already past it. We're at 387 parts per million and we are rising. We are not like the guy who went to the doctor and the doctor said, you know, keep eating cheese at each meal and sooner or later your cholesterol will be too high. We're like the guy who went to the doctor and the doctor said, look, your cholesterol is way too high and you're going to have a heart attack. You better hope you get it down before the heart attack happens. Well, we are having the heart attacks. That's what it means when all of a sudden your rivers start drying up or your Arctic starts to melt or whatever it is. We have to get it down. And 350 is not a magic talismanic number, you know. 351 does not represent damnation and 349 salvation. In fact, it's doubtless somewhat lower than 350 that we'll need to go. And we talk always about less than that number, but it serves as a rallying point to understand the predicament in which we find ourselves. It tells that number. It tells a story.
Guys, you can't lie to Mother Nature. It's that simple. I mean, everybody sees what's going on, but now we're going to have James Hansen himself explain the anomalies with a bell curve and some charts, because Uncle Joey loves charts. So, Kurt, let's have clip number 39, please.
So explain how we know that these events are happening and that they're not part of any sort of natural cycle.
They are, in fact, a product of global warming, and we can see that very easily. One thing, I think that the public can appreciate what we call the bell curve. You know, when you have a random variable, they tend to fall on both sides of the average value. Sometimes colder than normal, sometimes hotter than normal. And this is the way this bell curve looked in the 1980s. But as time went on, as the planet gets warmer, it starts shifting toward the right, and you get more red and less blue. And by now, this past decade, it has shifted so far that we've got about 10% of the cases out here in this extreme warm anomaly, more than 3 standard deviations. And to understand, it averaged over the whole summer, it's only a few degrees warmer, a few degrees Celsius warmer. But that's a big effect. It's to see how important that is. Look at Moscow 2 years ago, Texas last year, the Midwest this year.
So your research shows that the temperature increases between the last 30 years and the 30 years before that have increased by about a degree Fahrenheit. Now, is that within the sampling error? Is that significant?
Oh, it's significant. It's much larger than the error of measurement. And it's enough to change the frequency of these extreme events by a large amount. So it's important. In fact, it's now driven our climate outside the range that has existed the last 10,000 years, this geologic epoch that we call the Hollow.
2019.
Oh, you skipped me. But anyway, guys, you see what he's saying.
How we know that
it's enough to change the anomalies. And Kurt, how much time do we have left? 3.5 minutes. Okay, good. This is going to work out perfect because this next clip is 2 minutes and 54 seconds. So what we can do is we can run the credits, you know what I mean, and go out with the credits. But guys, this is going to be, you know, we were talking about extreme weather. Guys, what's happening in the Midwest is unbelievable. And I mean, I think half these farmers aren't going to be able to plant crops this year, never mind bring them to market. And the fact that half the soybeans, you know, China ain't buying them anymore, and Trump with his tariffs and all this other nonsense. But anyway, let's show you what Mother Nature, is telling us about global warming, climate change, and extreme weather. So Kurt, number 40, please. Look at that, guys.
2019 is shaping up to be a year of historic flooding in several parts of the United States. Early flooding in March impacted several communities along the Missouri and Mississippi rivers. This region features 59% of the nation's corn-producing farmland, which produces roughly 67% of the nation's corn output. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency expects flooding to continue through May. NOAA's Spring 2019 Outlook identified the major reasons for this year's historic flooding. So let's run through 4 of the big ones. Okay, breaking news, more rain means more flooding. As the weather warms up heading into April, the atmosphere retains more moisture, which leads to more rain.
We've had an abnormal year when it comes to precipitation through the winter months. This past winter season, we saw it's 200% of normal as far as precipitation. So we've got a lot of snow water equivalent sitting on the ground.
Snow water equivalent is the amount of leftover water if an entire unit of snow were to melt. Reason number 2, excess amounts of snow. In late winter, several portions of the Midwest experienced something called abomogenesis.
You get this storm system, and it was like a bombogenesis that came through, dumped out into the plains. It produced hurricane force winds across the central part of the country. So you had the battle of the warm air and the cold air. You had that warm air was advecting up. It was melting that snow that was ready to release. On the backside of it, you had, snow and those still hurricane force winds, and turned into blizzard conditions.
That weather pattern of extreme cold, followed by relatively extreme heat, further exacerbated flooding. Reason number 3, frozen ground and fully saturated soils. That extreme cold caused another problem. The topsoil froze, which made the ground less permeable, like concrete. Water that would usually absorb into the dirt had nowhere else to go. This is the same concept that makes cities with vast networks of roads more susceptible to flooding.
We had this, a lot of precipitation in the form of rain prior to it freezing. So, that ground is saturated to a certain level. The freeze depth will grow just like that. We see the ice on the river systems. And what happens when that ground actually freezes, it becomes a hard surface. So any rain that falls on it, it just shoots it right off. Rain on top of snow, on top of frozen ground, and it's just a perfect combination for a flooding event.
The soil along the Missouri River, a significant hotspot of flooding this year, doesn't irrigate easily.
When you think about how much rain we've had and how the weather is, and I want to thank Kurt, he's done a good job. I want to thank Martino's. I want to thank Uncle Joey and Kenny Johnson. I want to thank Dave Strait and Marty. And guys, remember, if somebody mentions Patrick Moore's name, what do? You grab your earlobe and you right on the ground. And this way they'll never mention his name again. Give him the old BATTA-BING. All right, everybody, we'll see you next week with some more fun. So take care.